we start, let me say a few words. We are under immense time pressure, so we'll have the statements by both the German and the French finance minister, and then we'll have time for one question from each side. And then there's a train to catch to Paris. Thank you.
Ich bin dafür verantwortlich. Entschuldigung. Well, maybe a few words to start. Just to tell you that we had two very useful and fruitful days. First of all, we addressed the issue of the Eurozone reform. You know how important it is for us to complete, to reinforce the Eurozone. We strongly believe that there is a need for a strong reinforcement of the Eurozone. And one of the key pillars of this reinforcement will be the entry into force of a Eurozone budget. So we made, I think, important progress yesterday on that key question, and we want to reach a consensus by the Council of June on all the features and all the details of a Eurozone budget, which is, once again, a key element of the reinforcement of the Eurozone. We also had a discussion on digital taxation. We did not find, as you know, an agreement on the digital advertising tax, which is, for France, a missed opportunity. But we strongly believe that now we have to move on. We have to move on at the OECD level, and France will pursue with full determination its willingness of having a new international taxation system, which would be fairer and more efficient. That's why we made a very concrete proposal, which is to now work at the level of the OECD to have, first of all, a digital taxation at the level of the OECD as soon as possible. We think that we could have the key features of that digital taxation by the end of this year, 2019, with the possibility of having an entry into force in 2020. We are also fully determined to pave the way for a minimum taxation. As you know, it is one of the key feature and key purpose of the French G7, and we will work closely with Olaf on that question of minimum taxation, and we strongly believe that there is also a possibility to have a consensus among the OECD member states on that question of minimum taxation for corporate tax. Those 2 points, digital taxation on the one side and minimum taxation on the other side, are the 2 key pillars for the reinforcement of the international taxation system for the 21st century. A last word on the blacklist. We have adopted today the blacklist, and I think it is a very clear and concrete signal of the European willingness to fight against tax evasion. Tax evasion kills democracies. Tax evasion is a weakening of all the principles and all the values on which Europe is based. That's why I think it's a very good signal that we have been able to find a consensus and to adopt today the blacklist to fight against tax evasion. Thank you.
Let me continue. The 2 days have been very fruitful, and they have been very fruitful because of hard work that had been done before by Germany and France, preparing all the questions that were on the table the 2 days. The first question we prepared from the beginning of summer last year is the question of a Eurozone budget. There has been a proposal we developed in May together, and which has been adopted by the governments of Germany, France and Meseberg last summer as the way how we will proceed in the European Union. We made it to a concrete proposal in the end of this year, and now I think there is a willingness of anyone to get an agreement about the Eurozone budget as part of the Eurozone reform. And I'm absolutely sure that we will have the necessary progress up to summer this year. So this is just 1 year from going from the starting point to get to the goal, which is, I think, looking at European affairs, something which is very fast. And we are quite proud about this development. We know that this is something which needs consensus with anyone who is involved. Yes, this is how the European Union is working and should work. But in the end, making this very strong approach was the reason for getting as far as we are today and for getting at the stage where we will be able to have success. There is a second proposal that has been made by Germany and France. This is to get a progress also in the question of financial transaction taxes. You know that there is a debate which is some years lasting now in the European debates. We have enhanced cooperation, which is always getting together, but without getting any results, looking at the last years. Now we are at a stage where we can say it looks that we will have a consensus that getting an agreement on the basis of the way of financial transaction tax we already have in praxis in France could be the model for the enhanced cooperation and could be possibly something that is convincing some other countries when the model is already made. We are now willing to discuss within the ECOFIN and the Euro-Gruppe about these questions, and we are also making a lot of progress in this field. There are already questions on the table. This is how to use the money and how we will get it in a way for putting it into the use for European aims of the countries that are involved in the enhanced cooperation. But in the end, it looks that we will have a consensus and find a solution for this lasting question as well. Third, there is the taxation of digital economy and fair taxing in the world, which is very much linked together. As you know, we are working very hard on the OECD level, on G7 and G20, getting some progress in both fields, the taxing of digital economy and the discussion about how to tax corporates all over the world, and the question of minimum taxation. Two questions that are now on a very far stage in debate in the OECD level. There will be meetings in Paris and in other places. And this is why we think that we will get progress in these questions up to the end of this year, and that it is very, very likely that we will have a consensus that could be adopted in summer next year in the OECD level, prepared by G7, G20, and all the things also the European Union is doing. And looking at the outcome of the debate today, the good outcome is that anyone agreed that this should be a common goal of the European Union. I think this has not been reached up to today, and this is an important step that anyone said that they will support this approach in the OECD, G7 and G20, and this will have an effect on the European Union if we do so. We had a compromise proposal for a digital advertising tax on the table, and we reached farther than we ever did. So just 4 countries were not convinced yet. But in the end, as we have the situation of unanimous voting, this is not a legislation which could start now with this proposal, but it shows a lot of things. First, we are near to doing something, and anyone is always saying that this could be back on the table again if on the international level a consensus could not be reached. And this might change the scenario also in a very important way, because in the end no one can refuse to do something if we would not be successful in OECD terms, and so I'm absolutely happy that we will do so. So it was not a success with the concrete proposal, but a success for the debate and for the common attempt to get progress in fair taxation. Let me in the end underline what Bruno the Maire already said. I'm happy that we could adopt the blacklist for uncooperative countries in tax matters. Yes, this is important, and this shows about the strength of the European Union, because if we wouldn't act together, we would not have changed any of these countries to in their praxis and the things they do in reality. And so we will continue with this.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
One question from each side. Is there a question from the French side?
En français, si c'est possible.
Oui, monsieur.
Oui, monsieur le maire, plutôt sur la taxe taxe française, le Trésor américain vient de déclarer aujourd'hui que la taxe française sur le numérique était hautement discriminatoire et mal conçue. Alors est-ce que cela remet en cause, est-ce que cela torpille la taxe française et est-ce que vous craignez des mesures de rétorsion?
Non, la France est un État libre et souverain qui décide de sa taxation et qui le décide librement et souverainement. Donc cela ne remet absolument pas en cause le projet de loi qui sera étudié à partir du 4 avril à l'Assemblée nationale. J'ai déjà eu l'occasion de le dire au secrétaire américain au Trésor, Steven Mnuchin, qui est favorable sur le principe à une taxation des activités digitales et à une taxation minimum. Le mieux est que nous arrivions à un consensus à l'OCDE. Car dès qu'il y aura une taxation internationale, la France retirera sa taxe nationale. Il est toujours préférable d'avoir une taxation internationale. Je voudrais rebondir sur ce qu'a dit Olaf Scholz tout à l'heure. Nous avons fait des progrès considérables depuis 2 ans. Lorsque j'étais dans cette même salle il y a 18 mois, nous étions 1 ou 2 États à soutenir l'idée de la taxation du digital. Aujourd'hui, au niveau européen, il n'y a plus que 4 États qui se sont opposés. Et on l'a vu pendant nos débats, il y a un consensus qui émerge. Nous sommes tous d'accord, tous les États européens, pour obtenir une décision au niveau de l'OCDE en 2020. Donc les choses avancent. Je crois que ce qu'il faut regarder, c'est l'objectif de long terme, une transformation en profondeur du système international de taxation pour qu'il soit plus juste et plus efficace. Ça veut dire une taxation du digital au niveau de l'OCDE et une taxation minimale pour l'impôt sur le revenu. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire concrètement? Ça veut dire qu'on ne pourra plus avoir un impôt sur les sociétés, qui soit d'un niveau trop faible et qui permette à des grandes multinationales de retirer leurs bénéfices de France, d'Allemagne, d'Italie ou d'Espagne pour aller implanter leurs bénéfices ailleurs, payer moins d'impôts alors qu'elles ont profité du marché unique et de la richesse européenne.
Herr Minister Scholz, es geht artverwandtes Thema Country-by-Country-Reporting. Sie und die Bundesregierung blockieren ja im Moment ein öffentliches Country-by-Country-Reporting, anders als Kommission, im Übrigen auch Frankreich und das Parlament es wollen, und stellen sich damit ja auch gegen einen Beschluss Ihrer eigenen Partei. Also warum setzen Sie das eigene Wahlversprechen der SPD an der Stelle nicht um und blockieren?
Wir haben sehr große Fortschritte beim Country-by-Country-Reporting. Es gibt mittlerweile über 50 Vereinbarungen mit verschiedenen Ländern, die wir abgeschlossen haben. Es gibt ein paar tausend Berichte, die mittlerweile beim Bundeszentralamt für Steuern eingegangen sind, dort ausgewertet werden und in den Ländern ausgewertet werden. Das ist ein sehr großer Fortschritt und mein Eindruck ist, dass wir auch in Zukunft noch weitere Fortschritte erreichen werden. Gefühlt haben wir fast jede Woche eine neue Vereinbarung über Country-by-Country-Reporting. Das ist ein großer Fortschritt und auch ein großer Beitrag zum Kampf gegen Steuerflucht und Steuervermeidung und wird auch zur Transparenz beitragen, aber einfach auch zur Erhöhung des Steueraufkommens.
Danke.
Sie sprechen von einem öffentlichen Country-by-Country-Reporting. Sie haben eine Frage.